Hey, I hope you are having an amazing day. Let me know how you are in the comments. Today, I'm going to tell you all about my experiences with interviews for medical school in the UK, basically what it was like, what sort of strategies I used to prepare, and like any tips that I might have to help you guys get through it. I'm no expert, but I managed to get invited to all 4 of my interviews, so I feel like I did get a lot of practice at interviews because of that. And I managed to get 3 offers. So yeah, I basically want to share what sort of things helped me and hopefully help some of you out too. So the first thing that I want to talk about, which might not actually come very obviously, is the order in which you do your interviews. If you're allowed to pick the date yourself, I would highly recommend trying to do the interview for the uni that you really want to go to last, because what that does is it allows you to have practice with 1, 2, maybe 3 interviews before you go and do that interview that you really want to smash. Obviously, we want to smash all of them, but it's just a little tactic that helps. In my own experience, I did this. I put the 2 unis that I really wanted to get into last, and I did the uni that I really wasn't fussed about first, and the offer that I didn't get was from the uni I did first. I'm not saying by any means that the interview you do first you're not going to get an offer for. Obviously, I just didn't perform well at the interview and they didn't want me there, but it really helps build up confidence and how comfortable you are when you're taking an interview if you do a couple before the one that really matters to you. So yeah, that's just a little tip that I think I got from my teacher back at school, but I thought it was really helpful because I did get more and more comfortable as it went on. The next set of tips are all logistical kind of stuff, so what to wear firstly. The uni, when they invite you, might give you a dress code, they might not, but it's pretty much the same across the board. You need to be dressed smartly as if you were going to a job interview. You don't have to have a full-on suit for most interviews, but you might want to check if you do need that. But you know, what people wear varies. Everyone obviously looks smart, they look professional. Some people have a full matching suit, whereas other people might wear clothes that are suitable for 6th form maybe. It also depends what your 6th form's dress code is. So yeah, just make sure you look smart, make sure you look like you've put effort in. The next logistical thing is what to take with you. So in terms of my advice of what to take with you that you don't have to take with you, I would highly recommend taking a water bottle and some snacks. With interviews, you're often waiting around for a long time. I found that at most of my interviews, I had to wait for ages before the interview. So having a drink and a snack is really useful to pass the time and also to make sure you don't get hungry or hangry. Definitely take that with you in your bag. And then in terms of what else to bring, if the uni asks you to bring things with you like identification, some unis have like a work experience form that you need to fill in, you might need to take your GCSE certificates, anything like that, make sure well in advance you've checked what the uni needs you to take to the interview and make sure you've got it ready, because you do not want to turn up without the correct documentation. Something else which you need to think about while preparing for a medicine interview is the type or the style of the interview. All of my interviews were MMIs, multiple mini interviews, but you also get another kind of interview which is a panel interview. So I'll quickly describe the two. An MMI, a multiple mini interview, is basically where in one interview you have multiple mini interviews. Sorry, that's a terrible explanation, but it is what it says it is. So you'll go around different stations and usually each station covers a different topic. For example, one station might cover medical ethics and another station might cover your personality, your hobbies, something like that. And the number of stations in an MMI varies greatly between universities. There's a time limit on each station and you work your way around them, answering the questions that they give you. I did loads of them by the end of the interview cycle, so I did get used to them, but at first I did find them quite intense. It just felt like a lot to take on, I guess, but they're definitely doable, and in a way it's nice to have it broken down into separate chunks where you can think about one thing at a time. The other type is a panel interview. So again, it is what it says it is. You have a panel of interviewers, like maybe 1, 2, 3. I haven't done one, so I can't give the best ever advice on panel interviews, but the interviewers just sit and ask you the questions, so you'll be in that one spot for much longer, usually in a panel interview, and there won't be as much, or there won't be any moving around. Just something else that's worth mentioning, aside from those two types, I've recently found out that in some unis, they have a group interview. So the whole interview isn't a group interview, but often there'll be a group activity within the rest of the interview. That's just something to bear in mind, but you can't really prepare for the group activity. It's just, you need to be aware if it's happening. The reason that I want you to be aware of the style of interview that you're going to be doing is literally just so that you know what to expect. Obviously, you won't know all the questions that are coming your way, but at least you'll know what the rough layout is going to be like, so that you're not thrown off or surprised once you get to your interview. The last thing I'm going to mention before I delve into the different interview topics you might have is it's very worth checking if the uni actually tells you what topics you're going to have, or even better, if they give you a list of questions that you're going to get. So some universities will tell you what the stations are about. They might give you a general title for each station, and then you know exactly the sorts of things that you need to prepare. Some unis will literally give you the questions exactly as they're going to be said in the interview, which is just such a blessing, and again, you know exactly what to prepare. If you do get given all the topics or all the questions, my number one tip is please don't learn any answers. Know what the topics are, have a few ideas going around in your head of what you could say about it, but do not try and write out a proper answer that you're literally just gonna say, because it's not gonna sound genuine at all. So yeah, don't learn an answer, just go in there. You already know what sorts of things they're gonna ask, so you already know what sorts of things you're thinking about, and just let it come out of you naturally. I'm now gonna discuss the things you need to know for your interview. So the different topics that you might get asked questions on, and different ways to prepare for that and to know what to expect, basically. The first topic I'm going to talk about is the NHS. So the majority of medical school interviews in the UK will probably have some sort of question about the NHS. It's obviously a very broad kind of topic area, and they're not going to expect you to know everything, but a base level of knowledge is important. Things to do with the NHS that you might need to know include hot topics. So hot topics means anything that's in the news right now, anything causing a bit of controversy, anything causing issues in the NHS, or anything that's been really positive about the NHS. At the moment, your hot topic is most likely going to be COVID-19. Hopefully you've been keeping up with what's been going on with that, and if not, it's not going to be hard to find sources of information. The other thing they might want you to know about the NHS is the values of the NHS, and they might ask like why that's important to you, or why you think it's good, or something along those lines. So make sure you read up on the key NHS values. They're so easy to find, just type it into Google and make sure you have an opinion on them, basically. The next sort of broad topic that you might get asked about is all about you. So sometimes they will ask you what kind of hobbies you do to relax and de-stress, or just in general what you like doing to de-stress. That's quite a nice question, because you get to talk about yourself and you get to talk about things that you enjoy. So I always absolutely loved those questions. They just want to see that you have a life outside of medicine and you have a personality like outside of school and all of that. So just make sure you be you and show them that. Other things that they could ask about you could be personal statement related. So read up on your personal statement before going to your interview. That is a big tip right there. because you don't want to be put on the spot when they're looking through your personal statement and they say something like, oh, I've seen you've read so-and-so article, like, can you tell me what you thought of that? And you have no idea what they're talking about because it was an article you read in like 5 minutes and shoved into your personal statement. You do not want to be caught out. So definitely look through your personal statement before the interview and make sure you know what you said in it so that you're able to actually talk about it if you get asked about it in the interview. In terms of you questions, they could also ask you about your own qualities and skills that could help with a medical degree. In a way, it is a nice question because you know what you're good at, you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, so it shouldn't be too hard to discuss them. But make sure you've thought about them in a medical context and in a medical school kind of context so that you're able to express that answer clearly. Another topic that you could get asked questions on is work experience and volunteering. These are normally really nice questions. They normally ask you what you saw, what you learned from it. Did any of your experiences encourage you to study medicine? Did anything you saw put you off? Things like that. They are nice questions because they're just asking you how you found it, basically. To prepare for these ones, all I can really say is try and recall your experiences before the interview. Make sure you know that you can remember something amazing that you saw. Make sure you remember something not so good. And yeah, just in your head, think, what did you learn from that placement? Or what sort of experiences happened during work experience or volunteering that are worth mentioning or thinking about or reflecting on. As long as you have a little bullet point list in your head of different examples that you could use in the interview, you should be able to pull them out nice and quickly and say how you felt about them. Next up is actually my least favourite topic of questions, and that is ethics questions. I'm not bad at ethics and I don't have horrible morals, so I thought that these questions would be really good. But the reason I found them hard is because you need to answer them in a medical context. You can't quite just answer them as yourself. So what I mean is you need to be thinking about the 4 pillars, the 4 ethical pillars, I think they're called, or the 4 pillars of medicine, something like that. I'll put them on the screen. Whenever you're answering an ethics question, you need to be thinking about those 4 points. You need to understand what those 4 terms mean. You need to understand how they come into play in an ethical scenario, and you need to be able to discuss each one in relation to an ethical scenario. Even though you do need to learn all that, it's not too difficult to practice these. I used to use UCAT SJT questions, and I used to take the scenario from the question and basically discuss it in my head or speak to a family member about ethics in regards to the situation I was reading up on, if that makes sense. So UCAT SJTs were a lifesaver for ethical scenarios. The other thing you'll want to read up on for ethical questions is the GMC's, the General Medical Council, Good Medical Practice Guide. I think that's the title. I'll put a picture of that on the screen anyway. It's not very long, but it's got all your practices which you're expected to follow as a medical student and as a healthcare professional. And it's just really good knowledge to have for a medicine interview to help answer ethical scenario questions. The next type of question I'm going to speak about is probably not going to be found in a panel interview. So I'm pretty sure that these kinds of stations are only in MMIs, and that is role play stations. So this is probably the most different kind of thing. We've all had conversations before, but we've never had a fake role-played conversation, unless you do drama or something like that, in which case great. But yeah, role-play stations. I actually didn't mind them because I always found that the actors on those stations were so nice, which was lovely, and it was mostly like having a chat usually. But it can be really daunting to do it for the first time, which it was daunting to do it for the first time. So I highly recommend practicing as much role play as you can with friends or family. Literally get them to act difficult in a public situation, get them to act difficult in a medical situation. Also enact situations that are more normal and nicer, because not all uni interviews have a mean role play station. Some of them just have a pretty normal chat to see how you interact with another human being in day-to-day life, really. Practice it with friends and family so that it becomes less unusual, so that you're more prepared and more comfortable with the whole thing in the interview, if that makes sense. The final type of question I'm going to touch on is quite a nice type of question, I think, and this topic is, why are you right for this uni or for this medical school? For these questions, it's pretty simple. You've probably done all the research for it already. I'm sure the unis that you've applied to, you've probably looked into the location, what the city's like or what the town is like, what the campus itself is like, what it's known for, what it's good for. And you've most likely also looked into the course, how it's taught, and why that's going to work for you. Or at least I hope you've done those things anyway. But yeah, if you have done that, these questions should be a walk in the park, because you've done all your research and you know why you've applied to that uni. You know why you're going to enjoy yourself there, and you know why you'd be a good fit there. So literally just speak from the heart, tell them about how you came about the uni, why you chose it, things like that. I just thought I'd mention that because it's worth remembering. They could ask you about that when you go in. I know I've spoken about so much already. I will do a whole overview at the end, but just one last thing to speak about, and that is the day of your interview. So this is one of the most important things to mention, I think, because how you get to your interview, how much time you have, how you're feeling, all of that has such a big impact on how you perform. So first things first, make sure you know what time your interview is, and make sure you have a way of getting there on time. If it's far away from you, I would highly recommend staying overnight if that's something that's possible for you, because it will take away so much stress in the morning. If you're getting public transport, get the one that's earlier so that you have a backup in case something is delayed or in case you miss something. Just make sure you've thought out every possible thing that could go wrong and you're one step ahead of the things that go wrong, basically. And then obviously on the day of your interview, make sure you stay calm. As long as you've done your preparation and you've done some practice, you're going to be fine. All they're really looking at is what you're like as a person, and also making sure that medicine really is right for you and that you really do want to do medicine. Make sure you do act professional and act friendly, be charming, things like that. Maintain good eye contact, firm handshakes, just the usual kind of stuff like that, just to give off the good impression and show how great you truly are. Because yeah, at the end of the day, as long as you are yourself and you genuinely want this, the interviewer is going to be able to see that. So yeah, be calm, you're definitely gonna smash it. Okay, I think I have said everything that I wanted to say about interviews and given all the advice that I could possibly give. So I'm gonna do a big overview now to make sure that we remember everything. The first thing I said was the little tip about the booking order. So if possible, book the uni that you really want to get a place at last, so that you get the practice of your other interviews out of the way first. Next, we spoke about dress code, so make sure you're dressed smart and professionally. Make sure you're presenting yourself in a good way. We also spoke about what to bring, so taking a water bottle and a snack is one of my personal tips, which really helps. And also make sure you know what the uni actually needs you to take as identification or any official documents, and make sure you prepare all that well in advance so that you don't turn up without something that was required. Then another thing to consider was, has the uni given you your questions and your topics? If they have, wow, amazing, but make sure you don't just learn an answer that you're going to repeat out. Just know the sorts of things you could say, but speak freely when you do say them. I also mentioned that you need to know what style your interview is going to be in, MMI or panel, so that you're not shocked on the day. Then we went through all the topics that you might get asked about in your interview, so make sure you're well aware of what you could say in response to each kind of topic. So that was like NHS related questions, ethics questions, role play stations, questions about you and your personality, about your work experience, volunteering, personal statement, and then questions about the uni and why you might be a good fit for it. So yeah, basically just try and think up as many questions as you can and try them out, practice them, have some ideas of what you could say in your head. And then the last thing I mentioned was make sure you're well prepared for the day in terms of transport, and just stay calm on the day, because like I already said, you've got this, you're gonna smash it. I know that that was quite a lot. There's probably more that I could say, to be honest, so I really hope I haven't missed anything important out, and I really, really hope that this helps you while you're preparing for your interview. Please don't hesitate to message me on Instagram if you have any further questions, or ask any further questions in the comments. I would be more than happy to help. Also, please subscribe if you found this video helpful, because I'm going to keep on making more advice videos like this in the hopes that it will help one of you guys. All that's left to say is very best of luck with the whole medicine application thing and any interviews you might have coming up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.